You think you're free. You wake up and choose. You swipe, scroll, buy, vote, speak your mind, and you believe those are your choices. But listen, most of what you call freedom is permission. Permission to think what others approve. Permission to want what the market sells. Permission to be who the crowd accepts. The chains you wear are not metal. They're habits that learn to look like comfort. They're routines that hide as safety. They're small agreements you made with the world when you were tired, scared, or simply too young to say no. You repeat the same lines because they keep you safe. You pick the predictable partner, the stable job, the accepted opinion, because the alternative demands something you weren't taught to give. Responsibility. Responsibility for the shape of your life, not just the parts you present on social media. Nietzsche called this the herd, people who move as one, who mistake the group's voice for their own. He saw how moral rules, polite language, and comfortable routines become invisible fences. You don't notice them until you try to step over. And when you try, the noise rises. You're labeled reckless, selfish, dangerous. You feel the pressure to come back in line. So most don't even try. If you want to be free, it's not about leaving town or changing your job. It's about noticing the small things you did because everyone else did them. It's about naming the fears that steer you. It's about choosing, truly choosing, without applause or permission. This video isn't comfortable. It isn't designed to flatter. It's designed to ask one brutal question. Are you living your life, or living the life someone else wrote for you? If you keep walking the path laid out for you, you'll never know the ground you might have made for yourself. And that is the quietest, most ordinary form of slavery. Nietzsche once made a claim that still cuts like a blade. Most people live like slaves, without ever realizing it. Not slaves in chains, not slaves to a master with a whip, but slaves to habits they didn't choose, beliefs they never questioned, and values they inherited without thought. They wake up, go to work, obey the rules, seek approval, and call it a good life. But every step is inside invisible walls, walls built by tradition, religion, culture, and the silent pressure to fit in. The cruel part, they defend those walls. They teach their children to live inside them. They shame anyone who tries to leave. Nietzsche saw this as the greatest tragedy of the modern world. Not that people were forced into obedience, but that they willingly surrendered to it. Not because they are weak, but because the comfort of the herd feels safer than the risk of freedom. In his eyes, real slavery wasn't about ownership of the body. It was about ownership of the mind. And until you take back that ownership, you might think you're living free, while your life quietly belongs to someone else. When Nietzsche spoke of slavery, he wasn't pointing to chains, prisons, or the brutal images from history. He was talking about something quieter, something invisible, and far harder to escape. It's the slavery of the mind, the kind where you don't even realize you're a prisoner, because the walls are made of ideas, and you built them yourself. Think about it. Most of what you believe about life, what's right, what's wrong, what's possible, what's impossible, didn't come from you. It came from parents, teachers, religions, governments, media, friends, the endless voices of the crowd. And the crowd has one rule: don't question us. Nietzsche saw this as the great divide in humanity. On one side is the herd, people who live by borrowed values. They measure their worth by how well they fit in, how safe they feel, how much they're approved of. On the other side is the free spirit, the rare individual willing to stand apart, think for themselves, and risk being hated for it. The herd doesn't need chains to keep you in place. They use shame, guilt, and fear. Step too far from their rules, and they'll tell you you're wrong, selfish, arrogant, dangerous. Not because you are, but because your freedom reminds them of their own cage. This is not a war of armies. It's a war inside your head. Every day, you choose whether to follow the path laid out for you, or burn it and make your own. And Nietzsche's warning is simple. If you don't choose to be free, you've already chosen to be a slave. Nietzsche's idea of the herd isn't flattering, and it's not meant to be. To him, the herd is made up of people who choose safety over truth, comfort over growth, and belonging over individuality. They move together, think together, believe together, and never dare to step outside the invisible fence. The herd avoids risk. It prefers rules already written, paths already paved. It doesn't ask, "Is this right for me?" It asks, "Will I get in trouble if I do this?" The goal isn't to live fully. The goal is to live without disturbance. Society loves the herd. Governments, corporations, even communities run smoothly when people obey without asking too many questions. From the moment you're born, you're rewarded for compliance. You get gold stars in school for following instructions, not for challenging them. You get promotions for being a team player, not for disrupting bad ideas. You get praise for being normal, but suspicion for being different. And what happens if you dare to stand out? If you refuse to go along with something you know is wrong, the herd doesn't cheer you for your courage. It turns on you. You'll be mocked, shamed, or quietly pushed to the edges until you either give in or disappear. Why? Because independent thought is dangerous to the herd. It's a reminder that there's another way to live, and that terrifies those who've built their identity on fitting in. When one person breaks free, it forces everyone else to see their own chains, and most people would rather attack the rebel than face their own fear. Nietzsche believed this fear is the herd's greatest weakness and its greatest weapon. The herd will make you afraid to be yourself, afraid to take a step without permission, afraid to stand alone. It convinces you that obedience is safety and that standing out is suicide. But here's the truth Nietzsche saw. Safety is the illusion that keeps you caged. And the more you cling to it, the smaller your life becomes, until you're not living at all. You're just existing, like every other comfortable, obedient, and quietly afraid member of the herd. Nietzsche believed one of the greatest tricks in human history wasn't pulled off by the strong, but by the weak. He called it slave morality. It's the moral code born from the powerless, designed not to inspire greatness, but to protect themselves from those who have it. In the ancient world, strength, ambition, and pride were celebrated. The warrior, the creator, the one who stood apart. These were admired, but those who couldn't compete with the powerful needed a way to survive. So they rewrote the rules. They took the traits they feared, strength, dominance, self-assertion, and branded them as evil. And they took the traits that kept them safe, humility, obedience, selflessness, and crowned them as good. It was genius. By redefining morality, the weak could make the strong feel guilty for being strong. They could shame the ambitious into holding themselves back. They could turn power itself into something suspect, even sinful. And it worked. Generation after generation grew up believing that to be humble was noble, to obey was righteous, and to put yourself last was the highest form of virtue. Not because these values freed people, but because they kept people in line. Think about it. A society where everyone is humble means no one challenges authority. A culture that worships obedience doesn't question the system. A world that glorifies selflessness ensures the powerful keep what they have, and the powerless stay exactly where they are. Nietzsche didn't see these values as inherently evil. He saw them as tools forged in weakness, wielded to control, and passed down until they became invisible chains. And the most dangerous chains are the ones you think are virtues. Because when your cage is painted gold and called morality, you don't fight to escape it. You defend it. To Nietzsche, true freedom meant questioning these inherited values, asking who they serve and whether they help you rise, or just keep you small. Because until you see how virtue can be used as a cage, you'll mistake your own prison for a sanctuary. Nietzsche saw two very different ways of living, two moral worlds that could not be more opposed. The first he called master morality. This is the morality of the strong, not just physically, but in spirit. Masters do not inherit their values from others. They create them. They act from a place of abundance, power, and self-confidence. For them, good means what affirms life, strength, courage, ambition, and the will to create. They don't need approval to act. They don't wait for permission. They decide what matters and live by it. Then there's slave morality. This is the morality of those who feel powerless. They don't define their own values. They accept the ones handed to them. They see the strength of others and call it evil, not because it truly is, but because it makes them feel small. They praise traits that make them safe, humility, submission, patience, not because they lead to greatness, but because they keep the powerful from using their full strength. Masters live by self-definition. Slaves live by reaction. The master says, "This is good because I will it." The slave says, "This is good because it keeps me from being harmed." Nietzsche believed this divide shaped entire civilizations. In societies dominated by master morality, you see bold art, fearless exploration, and leaders who take risks. In societies ruled by slave morality, you see caution, conformity, and resentment disguised as virtue. The most telling difference? The master feels no need to justify his values to anyone. The slave, however, needs everyone to agree with his morality, because it's the only shield he has. And over time, slave morality often wins. Why? Because the masses outnumber the few. The herd can shame, outvote, and overpower the individual creator. Their values spread not through strength, but through sheer quantity. For Nietzsche, the tragedy was that most people never even realize they're living in the slave's world. They follow rules they didn't choose. They defend values that don't serve them. And they call it morality, when it's really just survival. The challenge he left us with was simple, but dangerous. Will you define your own values like a master? Or will you carry the inherited chains of the slave and call them gold? Comfort feels safe. It feels warm, familiar, even harmless. But Nietzsche warned, this is the most dangerous prison of all. When life is comfortable, there's no urgency to change. Routine becomes a soft blanket that smothers ambition. You wake up, do what's expected, collect your small rewards, and repeat. Days blur into years, and you tell yourself this is peace. The herd thrives on this. Society rewards you for staying in your lane, for not questioning the script. Work hard enough to be useful, but never so boldly that you threaten the order. Keep your head down, fit in, and you'll be praised as good, respectable, normal. But Nietzsche saw the cost. Comfort dulls the edge of the human spirit. It takes away the hunger that drives creation, risk, and greatness. A life without struggle becomes a life without growth. The approval of others makes the trap even stronger. The moment you try to step out, to challenge the norm or aim higher, the herd pushes back. They'll call you arrogant, reckless, or ungrateful. And many retreat, crawling back into the warm arms of mediocrity. Nietzsche's warning was clear. The pursuit of comfort is the death of greatness. If you want a life that's truly yours, you must be willing to endure discomfort, uncertainty, and even isolation. Because the herd's comfort will keep you alive, but it will also keep you small. The free spirit is not born, They are made. Made through struggle, through doubt, through the painful breaking of chains most people never even see. Nietzsche's free spirit is someone who refuses to live by hand-me-down beliefs. They question everything: tradition, morality, even the truths they were raised to protect. They are not guided by what is accepted, but by what is true for them. This path is intoxicating and dangerous, because once you step onto it, there's no going back to the comfort of the herd. You will be misunderstood, you will be judged, and you will often be alone. But in that solitude, you gain something priceless: freedom. Not the shallow kind sold by politicians and advertisements, but the kind you feel in your bones. The freedom to write your own values, to define your own purpose, to live a life that is not borrowed, but built. The free spirit does not wait for permission. They do not ask if their path is safe or approved. They move forward knowing the risk, because the greater danger is to never live at all. Nietzsche's challenge is simple: stay in the herd and live by their rules, or step into the unknown and live by your own. Freedom is not free, and Nietzsche never pretended otherwise. Escaping the herd means walking away from the warm circle of approval. It means leaving behind the comfort of belonging and stepping into a world where few will understand you. People will question you. Some will envy you. Most will condemn you. The free path is not lined with applause, it's littered with obstacles. You will face risk, you will face failure, and more than once, you will wonder if you made a mistake leaving the safety of the crowd. Nietzsche believed this was the unavoidable price of true freedom. To think for yourself is to stand apart. To live by your own values is to clash with those who depend on the old ones. And to chase your own vision is to accept that you may walk alone for a very long time. But here is the truth he left us with. The pain of isolation is nothing compared to the suffocation of living a life that is not yours. Yes, freedom will cost you, but the cost of slavery to the herd is far greater. Nietzsche believed that at the core of every living being is a single, unstoppable force: the will to power. It's not just about power over others. It's the drive to grow, to push beyond limits, to conquer weakness, and to rise above the ordinary. This force is in you. It's the reason you feel restless when you're stuck in the same place for too long. It's the reason you dream of becoming more than what you are right now. But here's the catch. Most people smother this will under comfort, fear, and excuses. Nietzsche saw the will to power as the ultimate test of self-mastery. It demands that you take full responsibility for your life. No blaming circumstances. No hiding behind others' approval. No waiting for permission. To live by this will is to treat every challenge as an arena, a chance to sharpen your strength. It's to see failure not as proof of your limits, but as proof you're testing them. And when you commit to this path, you stop asking, "What can I get?" You start asking, "What can I become?" That, for Nietzsche, is the highest victory, not ruling over others, but ruling over yourself. Breaking the chains begins with a decision, not a grand moment, but a quiet, ruthless shift inside your mind. First, stop seeking permission. If you're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to live differently, you've already lost. Freedom doesn't come signed on official paper. It comes the moment you decide to act without needing approval. Second, question every value you've inherited. Ask yourself, do I believe this because it's true to me? Or because I was told to believe it? Most people never do this. They carry the beliefs of their parents, their culture, their friends, and mistake that for identity. But Nietzsche warns, the herd's values are not built for your freedom. They're built for your obedience. And finally, take complete responsibility for your life's direction. No more blaming society, luck, or your past. When you own everything, the wins and the failures, you also own the power to change it. This is the first step out of mental slavery. You stop being a passenger. You grab the wheel, and you don't let go. Nietzsche spoke about the herd in an age without smartphones, without endless scrolling, without the glow of screens in every room. But the core truth hasn't changed. Only the tools have. Today, slavery doesn't look like chains. It looks like an algorithm that knows you better than you know yourself. It feeds you what's safe, what's popular, what keeps you watching, not what makes you free. Comfort culture tells you there's no need to struggle, no need to question, no need to stand apart. Your entertainment is endless, your distractions are cheap, and your world fits neatly in the palm of your hand. And then there's social approval, the currency of the digital age. A like, a heart, a share. Each one feels like validation, but it's really reinforcement, teaching you what to say, what to show, what to hide, just to stay in the herd's good graces. This is the modern cage, a system that rewards obedience with comfort and punishes independence with silence. Nietzsche's warning still stands. Only now, the shepherd is an app, and the herd is global. Most people will never escape. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. The herd offers something that freedom never can: safety. Inside it, you know your place. Your choices are made for you. Your beliefs are handed down, polished, and packaged to fit neatly inside the world everyone agrees on. You don't have to wrestle with uncertainty or face the weight of your own decisions. And there's comfort, warm, soft, addictive comfort. The herd moves together, shields you from danger, and gives you endless reasons to never step away. It's easy to live there. You don't stand out, so you're not targeted. You don't speak against the current, so you're not attacked. Freedom, on the other hand, is cold. It strips away the walls that protect you, leaving you exposed to risk, criticism, and failure. It demands that you question everything you've been taught and carry the burden of being wrong, sometimes publicly, sometimes painfully. It means losing the approval of people who once embraced you, because you no longer follow their rules. That's why most will stay slaves. Because the cage is comfortable and the key is heavy. Because uncertainty feels like danger, even when it's the only path to truth. Because it's easier to sleep in the warm glow of the herd than to walk alone into the dark, not knowing where it will lead. And yet, for the few who choose the uncertainty, who choose the struggle over the safety, they discover that the cold wind of freedom carries something the herd will never touch: the raw, unfiltered taste of life itself. At the end of it all, Nietzsche's challenge is brutally simple. You can live as one of the many, or dare to be one of the few who rule themselves. Most will take the first path without thinking. They'll let life happen to them, drifting along with the current, doing what's expected, believing what they're told. They'll trade their own potential for comfort and never know what they've lost. But you have a choice. You can step away from the crowd. You can stop living on borrowed beliefs and start building your own. It won't be safe. It won't be easy. You'll face resistance, loneliness, and moments where the world feels stacked against you. But that's the price of ruling yourself. It means you are no one's servant. Not to society's expectations, not to fear, not to the quiet voice in your head that tells you to stay small. The question is, will you pay that price? Will you risk the comfort of the herd for the fire of freedom? Will you dare to hold the pen and write the story of your own life without asking anyone's permission? Because at the end of your days, there will be only one thing that matters. Did you live as you were told? Or did you live as you chose? The choice has always been yours. It still is. So, What will you choose? The comfort of the herd or the burden of freedom? If this made you think differently, that's exactly the point. Here at the Thought Foundry, we forge ideas strong enough to challenge the world and sharp enough to challenge you. If you're ready to keep sharpening your mind, subscribe. Not to follow the crowd, but to join the few who think for themselves. Your mind is the last thing they want you to own. Own it anyway.